Good evening and welcome to this virtual candidate forum. My name is Ravine Jimenez and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose candidates. In presenting these candidate forums, it is our goal to provide opportunities for voters to become better informed about the people who are running for public office. Tonight's forum has been pre-recorded in conjunction with the City of Richland. After tonight, it will also be available for viewing through the League's Facebook page, the Badger Club website, YouTube, nwpv.org, as well as the City of Richland website. The races we are featuring in our primary forums are the ones where 3 or more candidates have filed to run. Tonight, we will be hearing from the candidates who are seeking positions on the Richland City Council, positions 1 and 2, and Richland School Director 1. These are all nonpartisan positions. At this time, I would like to introduce Tracy Dial, who will be our moderator this evening. As a popular KNDU news anchor, Tracy Dial is a familiar face in the Tri-Cities. Tracy is a Northwest native who received her bachelor's degree in communication arts at Lewis Clark State College in Lewiston, Idaho. She also began her career there, working on both radio and television, and even making some local commercials. Luckily for us, Tracy made her way to Washington wine country in 2012. She is the 2021 People's Choice Award winner, an honor she has won several times. And now let's welcome Tracy.
Thank you, guys. It is such an honor to once again being able to moderate one of these events. Certainly different over Zoom in this day and age. Typically, you guys invite me into your living room, so welcome to mine tonight. But without further ado, let's get this started. So here are the rules of engagement for tonight's forum. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to give a 1-minute opening statement. This will be followed by the questions for the candidates. All candidates in the same race will have the same questions, and they'll each have equal opportunity to be the first to answer those questions. If time allows, they'll also be given 1-minute closing statements. And just a reminder, there will be a chime sound when there are 15 seconds left for your answers. You don't have to finish right then, but please wrap up your thought at that time. So let's begin by introducing the candidates for the race for Richland City Council position 1. They are in the order that they'll appear on the ballot: Shawnee Fitzgerald, Bob Thompson, and Johanna Jones. So Ms. Fitzgerald, please give us your opening statement.
Hello, I'm Shawnee Fitzgerald, and I am running for City Council position 1 in Richland. I'm a transplant from Georgia over 10 years ago at my husband's job as a nuclear engineer at the Hanford site. I am known in this community for my advocacy and the winner of the MLK Spirit Award 2020. I'm a mother of 3 and business owner in downtown Richland, and I'm also the founder of a local nonprofit organization for women called Wild Tri-Cities. I'm a board member of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce and member of the My Tri 2030 Inclusion Council. As State Commissioner on African American Affairs, I recognize that without policy, there is no change. So I'm here today by the request of the people of this great city, and I plan to visit policy and to make sure that our great city of Richland is ensuring that equity and accessibility is there and uphold the integrity of the mission and vision of our city. So I'm grateful to be here today, and I'm looking forward to making Richland one of the most welcoming cities in Tri-Cities to live. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Mr. Thompson, your opening statement, please.
Thank you first, League of Women Voters, for having the opportunity to have this conversation. And again, to Ms. Fitzgerald and Ms. Jones, welcome to the fray. So educationally, I grew up in Richland, graduated from Richland High, did the normal stuff, went to WSU, went to law school, got out of all that. I think maybe the best question to ask is, why would an old guy like me keep running? I mean, I think that's a fair question. And the reason, and it's going to shock the heck out of people, but it's kind of environmental concerns. So my job over the year is to take a look at the biggest obstacle, and our biggest obstacle in Richland, and actually the Tri-Cities, is the Hanford site and cleanup issues. We've got 56 million gallons of liquid nuclear waste, and it's a danger and a risk to everybody in our community, and policy makes a difference. To try to get involved in that, the Department of Energy has something called the Environmental Management Advisory Board, so I'm a member on that. I'm soon to be on the HAB board, which is the Hanford Advisory Board. And the idea is, and it's always been, is to clean up our area and make our citizens safe. And I got to tell you, sometimes I think we lose sight of that. We're all at risk. We characterize risk, but there was a tank tunnel collapse 3 or 4 years ago, and people don't pay attention to that. But it's also $2.5 billion that comes into Richland's community. And
Mr. Thompson,
I'm done.
thank you. We did not hear a
I
chime,
did
but I'm
not
quite
hear a
sure
chimer.
what
I'm just letting you know.
I do appreciate
No chimes.
Thank you for time. Ms. Jones, it is time for your opening statement. I'll try and grab a timer myself for the next one, so I apologize.
Thanks for having me. I am Joanna Jones, and I'm running for the City of Richland City Council because I love this city and I want its growth and prosperity to be shared by all. Richland is my home. My husband and I raised our son and built a business here. It has been a true pleasure to serve this community. I know budgets, I know finance, and I understand how to run a business and provide for families. Our company took a deep dive during the pandemic, but we made it work with less and delivered the same service to our customers. I know how to work with less, and I understand that this job with the City of Richland City Council will take business experience to help our small business community get back to work. And I have that to offer you, so I hope that you will support me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Well, now we are going to turn to the question and answers. We'll go in that same order. So Ms. Fitzgerald, your first question, other than finances, what do you think is the most important issue facing the city of Richland and why? How would you recommend handling this issue?
Other than finances, I honestly believe that we have a serious growing epidemic in our downtown and overall Richland area of homelessness and lack of community support or direct services to our citizens. We are seeing an increase, not just in Tri-Cities, but Washington State overall has a 20% increase of homelessness, and we are definitely getting our share. And sooner than later, we need to come up with solutions to help resolve and to bring community support for these individuals. And that can mean having a information management system in place where we can monitor and figure out what their needs are, whether that's housing or if that's just a rehabilitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. And remember, you are able to finish your thought at that time, but perfect. The chime worked. Mr. Thompson, you're up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Do I think I'm good? Again, I think in my opening statement, I think a lot of times communities have first world issues, right? Where everything is good and you have enough resources to take care of things that other communities or other countries can't. But the goal of a city is to provide safety and public service at a fair and reasonable price. And again, it becomes a Hanford issue, keeping people safe. It is like the homeless question. I look at Seattle and I look at like $120 million gets thrown at the problem. The problem doesn't go away. The bureaucracy gets bigger. And that's a policy decision. You got to be careful on what you do because you can create bigger problems than you want. And so you got to be careful policy-wise and the resources you have.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
So one of the main concerns that I have is our lack of housing. So we do have quite a bit of building, but we go from 250 units to single family units. So to me, housing is going to be very important. In 2015, we had on average 12 to 15 homes on the market available for sale. Right now, we don't have more than 170 homes on the market. So we do need housing, and I will make that one of my priorities is how we can help the city shoot or set up a plan that addresses the population growth and addresses the fact that we need housing in order to accommodate all these people that want to move here, because we have a beautiful city to live. And so we want to have housing, and I want to work on that. That's the major concern for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And how appropriate, Mr. Thompson, you're up next. And the question, in the Tri-City area, Richland does reportedly have the highest housing costs. In view of that, what strategies do you have to help with providing affordable housing for residents in Richland?
So first off, Richland's always had the highest housing cost because it's proximity to the Hanford site. That's not rocket science. It's just a question of what works best for people that live there to get to work. So I'm sure people have paid attention to the recent decisions the City of Council has made to allow old dilapidated hotels to become urban apartments or townhouses, right? So I think that's the first step that we're taking towards doing that. I don't know how successful that's going to be, right? I mean, Richland's a unique commodity, okay? And it will be interesting. The real problem is you got homeless, and then you have young professionals who have no place to go because it's too expensive to live in Richland, right? And so the concept is simply to give that opportunity by changing the housing stock. I mean, low, A, B, F, and H houses that we've always had have always been the lower income end of things, and they don't
Thank
support
you,
our
Bob.
population.
We did hear a quiet chime that time. Quiet, though.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Ms. Jones.
So there were several different bills that were passed after 2019 by the Washington State Legislature. And it was with the purpose to address the housing crisis that we have around the state. Many of the bills that were passed addressed accessory units, allowing for maybe some of those homes that have enough space to build to actually be allowed to build. Mr. Thompson brought up the fact that they're allowing 500 square feet units within the downtown or the North Richland. However, I don't think that that is the right approach. That does not bring the right element into the community, simply because I own apartments and I know that when there is no high-end 500 square feet units. So we do need housing, and we need to maybe observe the new house bills that were passed after 2019 to address the housing crisis.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Fitzgerald.
Yes, and so I don't lose sight, can you repeat the question?
My pleasure. In the Tri-City area, Richland reportedly has the highest housing costs. In view of that, what strategies do you have to help with providing affordable housing for Richland residents?
Thank you, Tracy, for that. I do believe that this is definitely a zoning issue. It's a policy issue, and it's also a lack of infrastructure issue. I am aware that Richland does have land that can be allocated for certain purposes and reserved for certain purposes. And I think that it's time that we visit the land that is available and reserve that just for affordable housing, just as we reserve land for and approve for land for luxury condos. I do believe that we have that ability in our city to ensure that we are doing a balance to our community to make sure that we do have proper affordable housing land reserved. So our land use is a serious issue right now, and making sure that we are appropriating that according to what our needs are in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Ms. Jones, it is your turn to answer first. This question, the county commissioners are proposing the Benton-Franklin Transit District give up 1/10 of 1% or $0.10 on a $100 purchase of their budget to help fund the addiction and mental health facility that's being planned for the Tri-Cities. Do you agree with this idea or not, and why?
So I don't necessarily agree with the fact that the commissioners are asking the Benton-Franklin Transit to allocate part of their funding to be allocated, obviously, for mental health services. I am not against it. I just think that we need to have a different way to solve the problem. This is a regional issue, and so we probably need to work with the other communities, Richland and Pasco and Kennewick, to come up with a solution that actually works for everybody. I do not think that we should be taking funds out of the Benton-Franklin Transit to put it into mental health and affect the same people that we're trying to help. So instead, we should put it out for vote so the community can make a decision as to whether we want to increase our sales taxes to allocate those funds towards mental health and alcohol and drug addiction treatment. That would be ideal versus taking the funds from the Benton-Franklin Transit.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Fitzgerald.
I also agree. I am a firm believer that Richland, it's time for us to handle our own problems in-house. We are definitely sending a lot of our community citizens to other cities for their resources, such as domestic violence and mental health and homeless issues. We are actually not able to support our own issues with our citizens. And I feel like it is time that we look at our budget to see what is it that we can do. Can we collaborate with our city officials to help other nonprofit organizations that actually work with these organizations and maybe include them in the next community block grant? Maybe look at some of the resources that we can pull down from our state and federal government that our city can actually access, that we can share those resources with other organizations that are doing that work. I do believe that it's time that we make sure that we are leveraging all of the finances and the grants that we can get for our city instead of maybe letting them go to Seattle and other bigger cities. It's time for us to access some of those fundings for the support that we need right here in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Mr. Thompson.
So yesterday, Richard Bloom, the chairperson of the transit, spoke at the City of Richland Council meeting. And being the shy guy I am, I said, there's two questions. First off, there's a process question. You don't bang somebody's budget and impact people that are getting a current service without having a plan, which is exactly what the Benton County Commissioners, terrible government idea, I think. I mean, you need a plan. So breaking it down, mental health and drug addiction seem to go hand in hand. That's kind of what I do for a living. And to think that they are separate issues, they are not. What works in the United States is when you combine both together in a single facility. And why do I say that? Is because people that are challenged with mental health issues and drug addiction, it doesn't do you any good to give them a point that send them somewhere into space because they don't have the capacity to stay involved. They just don't. And it's a terrible fallacy, but it makes some people feel better about themselves to give the illusion that you're actually doing something positive. The truth is, if you put the two together, you create a unified structure where people don't get lost in the system. That would work.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And thank you all. The questions are done. Sigh of relief. Now it's time for closing statements. I think everybody went a little long at least one time. So we're going to chop these down to 30 seconds so we can keep the time frame good for the entire program. So closing statements will go in the same order as opening statements. And again, this time we'll do 30 seconds. Ms. Fitzgerald, you're up first.
Thank you again for the opportunity. Your vote for Shawnee Fitzgerald will stand for me for equity and accessibility in our local economic development and in our resources. A vote for me will be a vote for a vibrant, inclusive, forward-thinking Richland. You can follow me on Facebook at Elect Shawnee Fitzgerald for actions that speak. And do not forget to vote August 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Mr. Thompson, you are up next.
All right, just real quick. First off, I really appreciate the fact that we have a campaign because I like vibrant new ideas. I really do, because it challenges old guys like me to see whether or not what we're doing is right. So it's kind of an interesting choice. So you have experience and maybe wisdom, you can debate that. But the bottom line, fiscal conservatives and running the city appropriately and saving the citizens' money and keeping them safe is what I think our job is. Sometimes we lose sight of that and we can go out in places that may not help all the citizens. I got a track record, right? We either done things right or we haven't. Richland, when I grew up, was X. It's Y now, because we want to create a vibrant living space where these two young ladies have come in and are enjoying that community. And there's a reason for that, because there's a plan. And so, look, wisdom means something, new ideas mean something. I hope citizens actually take those into consideration and make a good vote. I'm good with that. I really am. So I really do appreciate my competitors in this race.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Ms. Jones.
Well, thank you for having us. And I hope that you have gotten to know and learn more about us in the last hour. I hope that you feel that you know me a little bit better, my morals, my business experience, and my motivation. In the last few weeks, I have gotten to know our community while door knocking, and our community is telling me the same thing. We are in line with one another. We want the same things. We want to keep our police and fire funded. We want streets that are well maintained, and we want to get people back to work. So I hope that you support me as your councilwoman for the city of Richland City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. And thank you, Shawnee Fitzgerald, Bob Thompson, and again, Johanna Jones, for all taking part tonight. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's get started. Here are the rules for tonight's forum. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to give a 1-minute opening statement. This will be followed by the questions for the candidates. All candidates in the same race will be asked the same question, and each will be given the opportunity to answer first. Then there will be the opportunity for each of you to give 1-minute closing statements. A chime will ring when the person has 15 seconds left in their answer period. You don't have to finish your thought abruptly, but please do wrap up your thoughts at that time. So let me introduce you to the candidates in this race tonight for Richland City Council Position 2. They are in the order in which they will appear on the ballot. So Marianne Boring, Mike Luzo, and Teresa Richardson. Mike Luzo, unfortunately, was unable to attend this evening, and there will also be a 4th candidate listed on the ballot, but that person has decided to withdraw. So the decision was also made after the deadline to get them off the ballot, just so you are aware. So let's turn to opening statements. Again, you have 1 minute. We'll begin with Ms. Boring.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Since my appointment in October 2020 to fill the vacancy for an unexpired term, I've served on the Richland Planning Commission for over 14 years and served on the Richland Board of Adjustment for over 19 years, serving both as chair and vice chair several times on both commissions. I've lived in Richland for over 24 years with my husband of 31 years. I've raised my kids here, and now my grandkids are being raised here. I bring to the council more than 30 years of land use planning, project management, and project development, leasing, lease negotiation, as well as small business ownership experience. To me, leadership means shelving personal agendas, listening to everyone, and representing all in Richland, or all of Richland, I'm sorry. During my many years of service to the Richland Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, I learned to bridge divides to ensure that everybody has a seat at the table. And that's how I will continue to lead while serving as your representative on Richland City Council.
Thank you, Ms. Boring. Ms. Richardson.
Hi, yes, I'm Teresa Richardson. We've lived here over 30 years and together raised over 3 sons who graduated from Richland High. There was a point where we all lived on different continents, but we decided to come back to Richland to call home. And that's great because it includes grandkids as well. I have served for many years on various nonprofits as board member or volunteers. Those are listed on my website. Currently, I'm on Richland's Economic Development Council. I'm recently retired 10-year CEO with Habitat for Humanity. And I have the desire, experience, and collaborative leadership style and time to assure smart growth along with quality of life. And that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Now we'll go to the question and answer period. And Ms. Boring, you will once again begin first. Question number 1. Do you think city governments should be more responsive and accessible to new immigrants? Why or why not? And if so, how?
Yes, I do. I think that the city should be open, accessible to new immigrants. Quite simply, I believe the majority of the United States is immigrants at one time or another. I myself am a descendant of Irish, Scottish, British myself. So if they didn't let my fellow ancestors in, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be able to do the things that I was able to do and am able to do and want to do in my future. So I definitely think that we should be open to allowing immigrants into this country and into the city as well.
Thank you, Ms. Boring. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, immigrants are very important into our society and culture. They add a lot of value. My work with Habitat for Humanity allowed me the opportunity to get acquainted with a lot of immigrants that have come into the country. And I was able to learn more of their story, their challenges, and realizing how the whole process works. There are many organizations that are dedicated to serving the immigrant population. I'm not sure exactly what specifically the city could do or would do other than supporting those organizations in the community as well. But definitely some wonderful stories and wonderful people that have come into our country that I've had the opportunity to work with and treasure.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. You will go first for question number 2. The latest legislation regarding simple possession of narcotics mandates diversion rather than incarceration for the first 2 offenses. What do you believe the impact of this legislation will be?
Well, I understand that there's some debate on that being accepted. And there was some talk about changing our city ordinances to reflect that change, and that in the legislature, they're still working through some of the issues that have come up with that. I do see the value of providing help for people who want help to be directed to the appropriate services, whether it be mental health or drug treatment, that kind of thing. But the question that I have, when I was listening to the city council wrestle with that issue, was at what point are we going to stop enabling the criminal and start empowering the policemen to be able to follow through with what they need to do? So that was what I observed as I was listening to the city council.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Ms. Boring.
Can you repeat the question again, please? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. The latest legislation regarding simple possession of narcotics mandates diversion rather than incarceration for the first 2 offenses. What do you believe the impact of this legislation will be?
I don't quite believe we have seen the full impact. I don't think we know the full impact at this point. There definitely will be some impacts on it. The city council did have to make a code change because of the decision that was handed down. The diversion program, while I do agree that people should get help if they want help, again, but they have to be willing and able to have help or get help. There also has to be treatment centers and programs for them in order to get the help that they need. And those have not been put in place. So I think it was actually a little bit premature of our state to pass some laws and legislation like this. So we're having to deal with that right now. There's no silver bullet for it, but it's definitely something that we're all going to have to deal with. I think it's also put our police in a bad position, which I'm sure they don't appreciate. And that is something else that we're going to have to deal with and work with them on as well.
Thank you, Ms. Boring. Now it's time for closing statements. Again, the two of you will each have 1 minute. Ms. Boring, you're up first.
Oh, I do come to you with no self-serving agenda. So these factors, coupled with my years of dedication and experience and knowledge and background with the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, all of which I feel I have a leg up against the other candidates. I'm devoted to making our city a better place to live and work, and I would be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boring. Ms. Richardson.
Well, there's no doubt that Marianne can do the job. I'm just running because I feel like I can do it better. Marianne's experience has been within the city and mine has been with the community. If I have a secret power, it's to listen and to work collaboratively to solve problems. I have a history of doing that. I am appealing to the voters to let me represent your concerns, let me represent common sense, and let me continue to sit at the table and serve our community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you guys for your participation this evening. Again, this is Richland City Council Position 2 candidates. They are Teresa Richardson, Marianne Boring, and Mike Luzo, who again, unfortunately was unable to attend.
Thank you all for joining us tonight to be a part of this candidate forum. We are going to begin with the rules for tonight. So we'll be following these for this entire forum. Each candidate is going to be given 1 minute for opening statements, and this will be followed by questions for the candidate. All candidates in the same race will be asked the same questions, and everyone will be given the opportunity to go first. We'll follow that up with a closing argument segment. Each of you will get 1 minute for that as well. And a chime is going to ring when there are 15 seconds left in your speaking portion. You do not have to wrap up abruptly, but please do try to wrap up that time. So now, please let me introduce you to the candidates in the race for Richland School Board Director number 1. They are in order of which they will appear on the ballot: Audra Bird, Danica Garcia, and Heather Cleary. Thank you all for coming tonight. So let's turn to opening statements. Ms. Bird, your opening statement first.
All right, good evening. Thank you so much for having me on here. My name is Audra Bird, and I am running for Richland School Board Position 1. I am a mother and foster mother of 6+ children. I have 5 children at home, 1 that lives in heaven, and multiple children that I love and care for throughout the Tri-Cities. Before I was a stay-at-home mom, I was a certified K-12 teacher in the Richland School District, and I absolutely love working with education. One of the reasons why I'm running for the Richland School Board is because I want to give families voice and choice. This last year, we had over 1,000 students leave Richland School District at one point because their needs were not being heard. I also really want to give families more school choice. I really want to help build our special ed department, our English language learning department, and our mental health resources. I also strongly advocate for our alternative learning environments, including Three Rivers HomeLink, Civic Crest Online Academy, the Quest program, and I really want to bring in more technical program offerings. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Ms. Garcia, your opening statement, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us this evening. My name is Danica Garcia, and I would like to be your next Richland School Board Director, position number 1. I am a bilingual educator, a proud mother of 2 children attending school here in the Richland School District, and an active Richland School District volunteer. So I'm running in this election cycle because I believe that we need to make sure that in our public education, we are doing our very ultimate best to prepare our students for colleges and careers, make sure that they're ready. And I believe strongly in the value of public education as a tool to do that. I want to make sure that all our children here in Richland have an education that is high quality, just, and prepares them for their colleges and careers with no exceptions. All our students from Richland deserve a bright future. And as board directors, we must make sure that we have the resources to thrive in their schools. So as your next board director, I'm committed to doing what's best for all of Richland's students.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Ms. Cleary.
Good evening. My name is Heather Cleary, and I've been a member of the Richland School Board for the last 16 years. During my tenure, there are a long list of accomplishments, such as implementation of full-day kindergarten district-wide, lowering K-3 class sizes, expansion of our early learning program, working to close student achievement gaps, and construction of 15 schools and 13 other facilities. The past year has been filled with challenges, but through it all, our board has supported what's best for students. As we look forward to this fall, we are focused on getting our students back into school full-time, engaged with learning, and connecting with the activities they love. The Richland School Board has accomplished many great things, and if I am reelected, we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cleary. Now for questions and answers. Ms. Bird, you will go first. First question tonight, how well do you think the school district handled COVID, and what might be done differently if we're ever faced with another pandemic?
Thank you. I think our biggest concern with COVID this last year was our lack of communication to our families in the district. I am a mother of children that attend our schools in this district, and so many other people that I know that attend our school district schools have been really unhappy with the communication. Obviously, like I already said, 1,000 students left the school district this last year at one point because their needs were not being heard. Multiple families and parents attended school board meetings, whether it was on Zoom or in person, and asked for different resources to be met, and their needs were continually ignored and turned away. If you attend a school board meeting, most of the time, if a parent stands up and gives their thoughts, the only response from that school board is next, your time's done, next. And it's been super frustrating as a parent to feel like you're not being heard. If I am on the school board, I want to give families that voice. And if they come to a school board meeting, I will listen. And then even if I don't have an answer at that point, I will say, thank you for your time. I will give you an answer by this date and in this way. And I think it could really improve communication wise. I also think communication needs to be better at going out to the community. There was one school board meeting that parents called in. School was supposed to resume full time on Monday, and it was a few days before, and parents didn't know when buses were coming. They didn't know when school was supposed to start. A lot of parents were really frustrated because no communication was going out from the school board either. And so if I am
Thank you, Ms. Bird. I know we did not hear a chime. I'm quite sure we're past the minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cleary, you are up next.
So some question about how did we handle COVID? Okay. I think we did a good job, the best that we could. There was a lot of unexpected things to deal with. Things were constantly changing, the requirements from the health department, the governor. It was a constant change of flux. We had constant changing number of cases. We had to be within certain ranges of so many cases per 100,000. And it really spiked up in November, December, and January until the vaccine became widely available. And then as those numbers dropped, we were able to get kids back in school. We had to develop protocols. We called in hired a third party contractor to come in to make sure we were following the correct protocols of cleaning and disinfecting. There was just a lot of problem solving that had to be done, and I think the district did a good job. I'd also like to add, we didn't lose 1,000 students. That number is incorrect. We had more in the neighborhood of the high 400s, and most of them were kindergarten students who chose to put off school for a year. Thank you.
you, Ms. Cleary. Ms. Garcia.
Well, first of all, I think this past period that we've all gone through was tough. I think it was tough on families. It was tough on teachers. It was tough on administrators. It's tough on students from top to bottom. Here we are with an education system that's 100 years old, and on a dime, we're being asked to ask our teachers to reinvent it, as administrators trying to figure out how to do it, and as parents try to figure out how to navigate it. So I think that as we look at this, we need to stop and make sure we're looking with eyes of compassion and heart, and gratitude also to all of those who worked so hard to make sure that our children were learning and did get an education. That said, it was a pandemic and it was difficult, and learning gaps that existed before were exacerbated, for a certain populace of students because of what had to occur. I think it's important to note that we must follow school regulations, and that we must need to make sure we look at our emergency management plans to make sure that we have a plan in place if and when we have to face this again in the future.
Ms. Garcia, thank you. Quite the talent speaking so quickly at the end there. All right, Ms. Garcia, you will go first on question number 2. The subject of critical race theory has been on the national scene lately. According to the June 21st editorial in the Tri-City Herald, it says, quote, contrary to a surge of misinformation online, there is no new law requiring Washington State public schools to adopt a controversial critical race theory curriculum, end quote. A state law approved last April does require a professional training day for school district staff that focuses on topics like diversity, equity, and inclusion with the intent of creating a sense of belonging for students. What are your thoughts regarding this new training requirement for teachers?
Well, first of all, paid professional development for teachers, administrators, and staff is always important. One of the key principles as an educator is reflective practice. So this means we need to look at what we're doing and how we can improve it. So when we think about the important factors we can have in schools, one of our most is making students feel welcome. So it makes sense to have students to have training which can further enhance all students being included. The bottom line is that students need to feel safe and included in our schools for them to thrive academically. We must put as much effort into supporting our students' mental health and social emotional well-being as we do to protect their physical safety through efforts like background checks and lockdown drills in our schools. So the practice of student safety at school must not end, however, though, with just training. We need to also make sure that our students have sufficient counselors. We need to strengthen our anti-bullying programs and improving accessibility of confidential reporting and support clubs for peer-to-peer support so that all students feel welcome and included. And our kids are our most precious resource, and education is our future. So doesn't it make sense that we give the teachers all the resources and the students the ways to support them the best possible?
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Ms. Cleary, you're up next.
Okay. That editorial in the Herald was very accurate information. There has been a widespread amount of things out on Facebook and social media and national media that's very alarming. The bill it's referring to is Senate Bill 5044, and basically it requires that the board and administrators become trained, but really it doesn't really impact our curriculum. We don't have to change anything we're currently doing. It doesn't change anything. It just requires that we are taught about diversity and equity and inclusion. So I would also like to add that if parents are concerned, first of all, I would go and look at the legislative website at the bill, Senate Bill 5044. The other thing I would encourage parents is we have a long history of allowing parents to opt their kids out of anything that they have an objection to. So keep that in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Cleary. Ms. Bird.
Hi. Okay, for Senate Bill 5044, I absolutely advocate for celebrating diversity. I absolutely advocate for equity and for inclusion. I think those are super important to teach our staff, super important to teach our children. That being said, there is a huge worry in our community about critical race theory and the trickle-down effect. If critical race theory is snuck into those diversity trainings, then it will eventually trickle down to our students as well. And I absolutely want to teach anti-racism for all. I have 2 sons, one that has beautiful brown skin and one that has beautiful peach skin. And I love both of my sons dearly. I absolutely will not tolerate any racism for my son with full brown skin, and I will not tolerate racism for my son with white skin either. And so critical race theory is a racist agenda. And as long as those trainings stay clear of critical race theory, then I am all for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Now, question number 3, Ms. Cleary, it is your turn to go first. The question is, the Richland School District has been the recipient of PILT, Payment in Lieu of Taxes money. These are federal funds that may no longer be available. What impact do you believe this could have on the Richland School District?
Oh, the loss of PILT money would be devastating to our district. And it currently was in the paper recently that it was taken out of the federal budget, but we have been working with a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. We've worked with Senator Cantwell and Senator Murray's offices in trying to keep that money in the budget, and we are working currently to keep it in the budget so we don't lose it. But you are correct, it would devastate us.
Thank you, Ms. Cleary. Ms. Bird, you are up next.
Right. I think that it is essential that we make sure that we're using our funding appropriately, that we're budgeting and using all of our money allocated appropriately. I think, like you said, the PILT money is super important. It's super important that we use that money when it comes in and that we listen to our community on how they want that money to be spent in our schools, and that we're making sure that we're using that money wisely, as well as the tax dollars that come in, that we're not just spending it frivolously, but that we are conscious of where this money is coming from, and that we are using it as smartly as possible to truly benefit our students to the best capacity that we can, to benefit all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Ms. Garcia.
I think that, both aspects have been mentioned, that the PILT money is really important to the way that this city operates and to our school district. And I don't have the figures at hand, but it is a substantial amount of budget money that goes into our budget. And that money goes into to our building budgets, into our money that actually works for our students directly. And so, not having that money in our budget would affect us greatly. However, I think this is a good example of where Richland has leveraged our community partnerships and our partnerships that we have with DC and with our other and with our lobbyists, in order to keep those relationships strong. And from what I have talked with the finance people at the district and with others in our community, they're fairly certain that Richland's going to be able to get that money restored. But I think it is an important part that we stop and give pause into our strategic planning and pause these questions of what if and how would we manage should further adjustments be needed. But I think we'll be getting it back, and we need to be using it as wisely as we have. And luckily, Richland is a district where our voters have given us great confidence, and we should be much grateful for passing our bonds and passing our levies. And we have a strong finance department that has kept a balanced budget in our school districts. So we just need to be keeping our eye to the future and continue to be transparent and managing those funds well.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Time now for closing statements. We'll begin with Ms. Bird.
Okay, so as I said before, my biggest thing is that I want to help these students heal. After a year of chaos, I strongly want to be a voice through to the community and back from the community down through the superintendent to our amazing admin and amazing teachers. I think teachers are our biggest resource. They're the ones that are really in the trenches, doing what is necessary for our children. And I want to help those teachers have all the resources that they absolutely need to be able to care for our children. And I want to be that voice back of communication to the parents so that the parents can truly have a say to be able to help bless and teach all of the children in our district. So if you vote for me, I will work really hard to give those choices and give that voice to you as the community members to help improve our schools and to help our children heal from this hard past year and to be able to improve for lifelong successful learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Ms. Garcia, your turn for closing statement.
Well, first of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity for us to gather this evening. These nonpartisan voter education events are critical to the success of our democracy, and it's an honor to participate. I think one thing we need to think about as we're choosing our elected officials is maintaining and respecting the nonpartisanship of these public positions as a way to keeping our government's local government successful. So I encourage all of our voters to do careful research on their candidates. And I would like to humbly ask for your vote as a person who can bring a background in education, strong experience working with our schools, and hands-on leadership to this district position. So I ask all our voters to remember to turn in their primary ballots on August 3rd, and I request for your support. And please, everyone, research carefully and do your American duty of voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cleary.
This has been the most tumultuous time in my 30 years of volunteering in Richland schools. The district needs experienced and decisive decision makers right now more than ever, as we stabilize following a year of constant change due to COVID. I'm confident that I'm the most qualified candidate for position 1 because of my knowledge and experience, and would appreciate your vote on August 3rd. Thank you. And thanks to the League of Women Voters too.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cleary, and to your fellow candidates. Once again, Richland School District Director number 1 position, Audra Bird, Danica Garcia, and Heather Cleary as your candidates.